Sex has become all I know about you. Memories of those filthy things that we do. There's not one single thought that's left after sex with you. Should have left my pants on this time, but instead you had to let me dive right in. I should have left my pants on this time, but you let me dive right. You let me dive right in. My name's Harley Neville. Welcome along to the Guy and Harley podcast.
And I'm Guy Pigton. And who is that special message for? Who is that message? Who is
Well,
that lovely lady that you were thinking about?
Uh, well, sadly, none. There's no lovely ladies that I'm having. What's the word? Like no strings attached sex with.
Mm.
Sadly, so that was just the reason why I chose that one was because it was Limp Bizkit, No Sex, one of their best songs off their earliest album, and I watched recently the Limp Bizkit concert
Yeah,
where he's a 50-year-old man now.
that's right.
Where
He
Fred Durst is a 50-year-old
he is
man
a
now.
middle-aged man.
But
Yeah.
it was good. It was actually a really good concert. I did not expect it to be. I just wanted to have a quick look to see what his new look was with this mustache and this wig and all that.
Yeah.
Because I'd always thought he was bald, and then you start seeing all these images of Fred Durst around on the internet with this lovely head of hair, lovely head of grey hair, and of course it's a wig. He is bald.
Yeah.
And he's got a handlebar mustache, and he's dressed up like an old man. And I just wanted to have a wee look at that. And then so I had a look, but I ended up watching the whole hour-long concert because it was a good show.
Did he?
So shout out to Fred if you're listening.
Did he play anything new?
So at the very, very end, they didn't actually play it live, but at the very, very end, over the sound system, he played some of a new song, which is coming out soon.
Right.
And it did actually sounded quite good to me. Sounded all right from what I could hear. But they haven't actually released it yet, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, Limp Bizkit is one of those bands that was incredibly popular and successful, and it was part of a zeitgeist, part of a moment in time that captured everyone's imaginations. And yet, if you listen back to a lot of the stuff particularly when they're at their peak popularity, which is the chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water, which the name itself was fucking dumb. And many of the songs on it are equally dumb. But that's when they're at their most popular. Now, I certainly agree that.
Well, that was their follow-up. That was their follow-up to their most popular album.
No,
one with Nookie on.
That wasn't their most popular album. Significant Other was when they were going up the trajectory. Oh, you can't see my hand. I was trying to. But Chocolate Starfish, I believe, is their most popular album. And it's shit.
That surprises me. That's where they lost me. I was like, oh, yep, this album sucks.
But that's the thing. That's normally what happens in both television and music. Is that if a band is growing or a show is growing and building momentum, when everyone's got on board with it, whatever that thing is, it's normally not its best thing. It's past its best thing. Like Dexter, for example, was incredibly popular in like past the first few seasons. It was building that whole time, but the first few seasons are by far the best. And I think that you do see that quite a lot in this sort of thing. And yeah, man, there's some. But my girlfriend and I were singing along to some Limp Bizkit the other day, so yeah.
So
my
the
way
dude knows how to rock.
My way or the highway.
My way or the highway.
Did he play that one?
He might have. I can't remember. He played a bunch of the old classics though.
Yeah.
It was good. It was a good show. It's a good show. Now I've been in MIQ, New Zealand border isolation for a week now, and I got very lucky. I got the Novotel. So after I spoke to you last time, I was in Japan, and I had said that I wasn't going to go anywhere or do anything interesting.
That's right.
And then the next day, I changed my mind and I went to Tokyo.
Well,
and I spent the whole day traveling around Tokyo.
Well, fucking good on you. Because if you hadn't done that,
buying some stuff.
You'd be a fucking idiot. So congratulations on deciding to make the most of your very little time there.
Yeah. Well, 17 days is quite a lot of time.
Only if
but
you can go anywhere.
yeah. Well, it was very good. I did a bunch of shopping and so on. And so that was nice. And then I got on the plane and I've flown back to New Zealand in a plane without Wi-Fi on it because apparently it's the year 2014 or something.
Well, let's rewind before you get on the plane. So you got off so you decided to go on a jaunt to Tokyo. So you
on the train.
So you took the train to Tokyo. You only had
and back.
Presumably, did you have to go back that night?
That same day, there and back in the same day. But it was only about an hour 20 each way on the super fast bullet trains that they've got. So it was all good.
And when did you how long did you spend there, and what did you see or do?
Well, so I arrived in the morning and we went shopping. It was me and two of my colleagues, and we went shopping mostly, just kind of walking around the streets and looking at, we walked down the street where you've got all the people that dress up like all the teenagers dress up in that crazy Japanese fashion, and all that stuff. So we went down that street and looked at a bunch of shops. And I was on the train in Tokyo during that Tokyo knife attack. Did you hear about that? The knife train?
No.
The train knife attack in Tokyo? There was a train knife attack in Tokyo because an incel wanted to hurt pretty women because he feels like women reject and disrespect him. And so he stabbed a girl really badly, and then
incel.
and hurt a bunch of other people. Yeah.
Another incel attack.
And I was on the train, but not the same train. But I was on a train in Tokyo while that train attack was happening in Tokyo. But it was not my line, not the line that I was on. So, yeah.
But he was attacking women.
Well, no, because people jumped in and tried to stop him. So I think he started with a woman, but then ended up hurting a bunch of men as well.
Right.
And then he ran away and caught another train or whatever, and then went out to like a shop, and then went into the shop and said, "Yeah, I'm the guy that just stabbed a bunch of people on the train." And the shopkeeper was like, "Alrighty then," and then called the police. And then he surrendered, and that was that. But yeah, so what do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that ignores him and treats him like trash? You get what you fucking deserve.
I'll let that statement sit for the words of Harley Neville about the train attack.
I was quoting the Joker because I'm going to do a movie review of the Joker.
Okay, I mean,
I finally watched.
You're only 2 years too late.
Joaquin Phoenix.
You're only 2 years too late to the party, but okay, go ahead. I've already given a review of it on the podcast, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't going to be, right this second, just at some point, because I was also, I went shopping and walked like 15,000 steps and got around in that. And then long-time listeners will recall that in the past I have bought a vagina in a can.
Sure.
I bought those in the past. You can go back and listen to the episode. I think it's called Vagina in a Can. And for those that don't really know what we're talking about, imagine a Pringles can with the Pringles taken out and a vagina put in. And these vagina cans are actually, they're quite good. I still can't walk down the potato chip aisle at the supermarket without getting an erection, you see. So they're actually really good. And while I was in Tokyo, I was looking around a shop, just a normal shop, not a sex shop or anything like that, just a normal shop where I was buying gifts and souvenirs when I stumbled upon an adults only area. And so out of curiosity, I poked my head in just for a look. I actually did it. I did it for the Sifty 150 listeners so that we'd have stuff to talk about. It was research. I did it for you, Guy, because I knew you wouldn't have any notes.
I appreciate that.
So
thank you very much.
Yeah, no.
Thank you for looking in that adult store for me. What did you find inside?
Well, that's the thing. I was there looking with no intention of buying, of course, just out of curiosity. But it was at that point that I realized that I was about to be locked in isolation for 14 days, all on my lonesome, and that obviously I was exactly where the Lord wanted me to be. So I went in there and I observed a wide and varied assortment of sex toys, including what appeared to be a vagina mouth in a can.
Mm-hmm.
It's a vagina on one end and a mouth on the other. Which is perfect because once you finish having sex, you can talk about your feelings before you go to sleep. And so the Lord had put this vagina can, this vagina mouth in front of me for a reason. And, I wasn't going to question the Lord. And so I bought it. So
God works in mysterious ways.
He does. He does. So that was what I was buying in Tokyo, if you really must know. If you really want to know,
you said you did a lot of shopping, so...
It was mostly stuff for other people. That was the only thing I bought for myself.
Well, what did you get me?
Glad I did. You can have some of the lollies that I found that I bought.
Okay, and how's that update? You've been 7 days in isolation. How's that vagina in a can going?
There's nothing left of it. It's absolutely wrecked. It's rubbish now. I had to put it in a bag and put it outside. It's just nothing left of it. It was running on the rims.
The wheels were falling off.
But so I have been in border isolation for a week now, and I got lucky. I got the Novotel. So that's a fancy one. And it turns out that in Japan, my flight got delayed by 1 day, which was a real nightmare because the crew was just sick. The Air New Zealand crew was sick. So I couldn't get back to New Zealand that day. I had to be delayed for a full 24 hours. But the good news was they put me up in a super fancy, lovely place in Japan. And I just had basically an extra night of holiday. It wasn't really a big deal. It was quite nice. And then when I landed in New Zealand, because it turned out that because I'd been delayed, I didn't get the hotel I was meant to get. And the hotel I was meant to get is in frickin' Rotorua. So I was going to have to land at 4:30 in the morning and then get on a bus for 5 hours or however long it takes to get to Rotorua to then get checked into some shitty motel probably that smells like eggs. And so I was very lucky because I got delayed. They ended up just putting me in the Novotel at Auckland Airport. And so it's a fancy, 4 or 5 star hotel with a great view, and great foods delivered 3 times a day, like a personal Uber. I get to choose the food from a menu as well. So it's not even like a fixed menu. And I've got, an amazing shower with 2 separate heads, which I don't know what they're both for, but I assume one is for business and one is for pleasure. And it's really good. It's a fancy place. My day is very structured. My breakfast arrives at 7:15 a.m., which is obviously bullshit. I'm not going to be eating at 7:15 a.m. The only thing that I do at dawn is turn into dust and blow away in the wind. So when they knock on my door at 7:15 in the morning, I have to wake up, put on my mask, and creepily open the door a crack and grab my food, in the nude apart from my mask, and then take it inside and then just dump it on the desk and go to sleep for another 3 hours. I do think it would be quite a good setting for a horror film.
What? Your room?
My room, and also just a hotel, isolation hotel. An isolation hotel. I was thinking you could have a setting in an isolation hotel, which was like the isolation hotel was feeding its guests and looking after them really well, giving them really good food and making them exercise every day and all that, and they're fattening them up. And the plan is to turn this is an isolation hotel, a little bit out off the beaten track, and now the plan is for the people that own this isolation hotel to turn the residents into a nutrient rich paste, for a cabal of rich pedophiles who are attempting to attain immortality through the consumption of other people's life forces, on a perfectly sort of tailored diet of nutrients and vitamins, from people. And yeah, basically this rich cult believes that immortality can be attained by taking nutrients from other humans, as long as you cleanse them for like 14 days beforehand, and give them a healthy diet and good exercise routine, and then they're lovely and delicious. And so, yeah,
Well,
movie idea.
I mean, you lost me the second half of it, but the location and setting, and as in you're in lockdown, on quarantine, in isolation, in a hotel, in a creepy hotel. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm bored. I'm on board for that. I do think that is a good idea.
Well, it's quite good because you could do a creepy scene where the lady delivering the lunch is walking down the hallway and she puts a bag down outside each door, and then like a creepy pale hand will come out and snatch it away again, snatch it inside, and there'll be multiple doors doing this, and she'll be kind of walking down the hallway, knocking and going room service, knock knock knock, and putting the bags. And in the background you can just kind of see these creepy monsters of some description. You can't really see them reaching out and grabbing their lunch hungrily, like feeding the raptors,
Well,
the velociraptors at Jurassic Park.
I think you might be onto something with this whole hotel thing. So you've hatched a good thing here, because that's what everyone's talking about now. When are we going to have COVID movies? We're going to have movies about COVID. We're now living in a COVID world, COVID all around us. COVID's not going away. COVID's going to be here for a long time. We've all had this experience, and so far, all the movies that we've watched really have ignored that, because they were made mostly pre-COVID. And now there have been some that were they were shooting while COVID was happening and stuff like that, but most of them sort of chose to ignore that. And now it's kind of like, at a certain point, if you got to depict life, you have to depict life with COVID. So I feel like that, but then there's this other sort of group of people that are like, you can't do a movie, you can't do horror about COVID because it's happening to us right now. So no one wants to see that. We just want to see, Marvel superheroes or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I am a bit bored by the topic of COVID.
I'm
just wish you just let it go already. I wish the world could just let it go already.
I'm happy to I'd be happy to see COVID horror films now. And to be honest, I'd be intrigued by movies that incorporated COVID into it in some way, because that will have to happen at some point. So I'd like to see it, because you just can't imagine Tom Cruise Mission Impossible getting into COVID, right? It's just going to be Mission Impossible 7.
Yeah.
There's going to be nothing. We're not going to be talking about it. Or Mission Impossible 8, or whichever one we're up to. But I feel like it's just going to be Mission Impossible. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to that stuff. So congratulations, Harley. You've thought of our next feature film. Thank you very much. I'll start writing that tomorrow.
Sweet.
I'll get on that. The good thing is the hotel location is quite achievable.
Contained?
Because we just go to a shitty old hotel that kind of needs a bit of income, and we all stay there and shoot it.
Rent it out.
We're laughing. So, you may well be onto something there. So I take my hat off to you. Thank you for living through this experience, this horror movie, so that we can write about it.
I'm excited.
You've been in isolation for 7 days, which is approximately halfway, exactly halfway.
Yeah.
Well, ish, right? Yes, it is exactly halfway. You're halfway through. Your routine, I'm assuming, consists of sweet fuck all.
Sort of. So I wake up at 7:15. Well, I wake up at 7:15 and then go back to sleep until 10.
Yep.
But then what I do is I set my walking time for nice and early, 10 a.m., so that I know that I'll be out of bed. And so tomorrow, for example, I've got my 45-minute walk for 10 minutes. I get to walk the yard outside there in this walled off concrete, area. And it's and then if I miss it, then I get trapped in solitary confinement. Because if I don't book the day before, then you don't get to go out that day. So it's important that you book, otherwise you're stuck in solitary. And what you really want to be doing is getting out there and walking the yard. That's the only time you get to see the sun. No, I've got big windows. I can see the sun through my windows, but it's the only time you get outside, basically. And then the other thing I do to get outside is I pretend I'm a smoker, and I've got some cigarettes that I bought for my mum, duty free. And in order to get them through customs, I heard a rumor that if you're only allowed to have like 50 cigarettes total, which is like 2 packs. And so, but I heard a rumor that if you've got a third pack, which is open in your pocket, like you're halfway through smoking it, then they won't take that off you. So what I did was I had 3 packs and I put 2 in my bag and 1 in my pocket, but I had opened it, and so now I've got this open pack. And so what I do is I use that to pretend that I'm smoking, and get another 20 minutes outside. Life hacks,
genius,
isolation life hacks. And normally I do it at the same time as one of my friends, and so they'll stand out there and have a smoke, and I'll stand out there holding a smoke, and can have a chat and a hang for 20 minutes.
Yeah, another classic. Smokers get a privileged life.
Special privilege.
It's just the same as at work. Oh, I got to go for a smoke break. Oh, cool. Well, you get approximately 2 hours off more than me because of all your smoke breaks. So thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I haven't done time this hard since my stint in Sing Sing.
Well, yeah. I mean, a 4-star hotel is rough.
It's tough. It's tough out here. It's fucking hard out here.
4-star hotel.
Tell you what,
shit.
Being in isolation, it just teaches you how to be a better criminal. Being in here.
So you go for your walk. Then what?
Just trying to find my notes actually.
That's when the malaise sets in.
Well, that's the thing. That malaise has somewhat set in. Because so I go for my walk. I do some daily exercise in here. So I've just got some daily exercise that I do in my room, and then in the evening I'll go out for my pretend smoke break, and then in between I'm just basically sitting at the computer, and I've got a long list of things to organize for the film festival that's coming up, and also for the short film that I'm producing, as well as just my general freelance hustle that needs to be done, and invoices that need to be sent, and all those types of things that need to be figured out and organized. And I'm sending my CV, and I've updated my CV, and I'm sending it to new employers, trying to get some more broadcasting work and stuff like that. So I just sit at the computer and hustle basically, and then at the end of the day, towards the night, I'll watch some Netflix. Shout out to 5150 listener Bevan, because I'll watch some Netflix, and then that's it. That's my day, and then I wake up in the morning, do it all again.
Are you shouting out Bevan because you're using his account?
Well, I didn't want to spell it out so clearly in case Netflix was listening, but yes.
Because you're not paying for Netflix.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
But so on Netflix, I did watch Joker, and I did enjoy that.
Yep.
And that was, are we going to talk spoilers here?
Yes, I believe it's quite safe now, Harley.
No, it's been out for 2 years. No, that's just the question is, was any of it real, or was it all in his head? Was it all in his head, and he was just in the asylum the whole time? And that's why it has that flashback to him whacking his head against the asylum glass. He goes, I used to be incarcerated or whatever in Arkham Hospital. And then he whacks his head. It shows him whacking his head against the glass. And it's like, hey, maybe he's in there the whole time, and this is all just a fantasy.
Well, I did really enjoy that as well. But I do recommend going and watching the movies that it's ripping off quite blatantly, which is Taxi Driver. Everyone talks about Taxi Driver, but also The King of Comedy, which...
Well, it's funny that De Niro's in both of those.
Yeah, well, clearly it's not a coincidence, but it's also almost like, hey, that movie that you did like 30 years ago? Well, we're going to kind of do that, but with the Joker. How do you feel about that? And he's like, well, you got a role for me? Paying me a lot of money? And they're like, yeah, we do, actually. Funny you should mention that. And he goes, yeah, whatever. Who cares? No one watched that movie anyway. So and there we have it. So, but it is definitely a good film, and I'll chuck out a few while we're on the movie review. Well, have you been getting through your work?
Well, yeah. I've been working through my list of things to do. I've been got things like my run sheets for the opening nights of the film festival and the awards night and stuff like that. So I'm going through and like setting up the templates for all my run sheets for this year. So just kind of like boring admin, really. So I'm signing up for Xero. I'm going to finally sign up for Xero, the accounting app, to help me keep track of my freelance career. But that's stuff I had to do. I had to pay some bills, invoice some people. I've just got a big long list of shit that I haven't been doing when I was in Japan that I had to get done. So yeah, I've been working my way through. I listed a list of sort of a paper edit almost of the show reel for that I need to put together for my acting, especially now that I'm a big star in that New World commercial.
Yeah.
I actually got called up by New Zealand's favorite television show, the flagship New Zealand television show. I am, of course, talking about Shortland Street. And they said, hey, Harley, we want to make it Short Bold Street.
Yeah.
Are you keen? We've got a role for you. It's going to be about a 3-week shoot as soon as you get out of isolation. And I was like, fucking perfect, except for I've got to go to Wellington and Christchurch for the film festival. So just for 2 nights. And so I said, well, the problem is I've got not available for 2 nights. Can we make this work? And they're like, sorry, Harley, this is Shortland Street, not Short Bold Street. Now get the fuck out of my office. And so I didn't get it.
It was all go, and then it was all no.
Yeah. So that's a gosh darn shame.
Well, I'm sure they'll come calling again because, as we all know, this show keeps going. Maybe it should have stopped long ago. Some people say that. Some people say that it should have been put in the dirt a long time ago, but it continues on and may go on forever. And if that's the case, essentially they have to go through every single New Zealand actor at some point because
you'll get on it, Harley. Even shit actors get on that show.
Even fucking the worst actors get on there at some point.
You'll definitely get on, Harley. But also, nobody says that Shortland Street should finish. Shortland Street should not finish, especially not now that Lord of the Rings has abandoned us.
Well, that's a great segue because we did learn, I don't know, yesterday morning. Was it yesterday morning? I think it could have been. That, or the morning before, that Amazon is pulling out. They're pulling out without even finishing. They're just pulling out. They don't even care because they're not going to be shooting for starters, what I reckon is stupid is that it was called Untitled Amazon Project for the entirety of it till they release a picture and then they go, we were shooting Lord of the Rings, obviously. And it's like, yeah, well, fucking no shit, guys. But why did you have to keep up that silly facade? When everyone used...
But they still haven't released the name of it, though, right? Sure, it's Lord of the Rings, but there's no Lord
official,
of the Rings. There's the happy ending.
Yeah.
The beginning.
The prequels. Anyway, the prequels to the prequels. So anyway, they have decided to shoot their second season in the UK. And our friend of the show, Richard, was... did you hear about Shortland Street? It's the government's fault. It's just...
You mean Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, that Lord of the Rings are finishing. And I was like, well, look, Richard, I don't think you can really right-wing this one because there's a lot of things at play here that have got nothing to do with our government and everything to do with... And I see some crazy stuff online from probably people that should know better. This is a business decision. This is not a decision based around... we're trying to screw New Zealand. I think it comes down to, we have to be honest with ourselves. For starters, New Zealand is a very small country, which means that although we have, a healthy amount of talent and resources, compared to the much more well-established and much more longer-established UK, for example, we don't. We have very limited by comparison in terms of studio space, in terms of the types of studios, in terms of the craftsmen and artisans that would work on such big productions. And also, and I think this is like a real massive one, which no one's talking about, is like the UK and surrounding areas such as Scotland and Ireland and all that have fucking castles. They have actual real fucking castles. We don't have any fucking castles here. So guess what?
Lanark's Castle. Lanark's Castle in Dunedin.
Guess what happens? Guess what happens when they need a castle? Oh, I've gone. I've disappeared.
Yeah.
That's a bit weird. It's my camera. My camera must have just stopped. I'm going to try something. Hold on. Okay. Let's see if I can semi-fix that temporarily.
Like me to talk about Lord of the Rings.
Well, I'm just... Anyway, but the castles things is kind of big, right? Here we go. I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it right now. So, no. Okay, here we go. Okay. Oh, that's not good. I wonder what's happening.
I want to take a note of the time code for this one, so you can cut it out for the listeners at home, the listeners on the podcast.
Okay.
He's back. There he is.
My camera just randomly turned off. Hope that doesn't happen again.
Well, it did do something similar earlier today, but not permanently. Just kind of flicked for a little bit. But yes, castles.
So, yeah, like stuff like that and stuff of, when you're looking for sort of aged actual locations, we have none of that shit. And the UK has all of that stuff. And so I feel like there's lots going on. And also, it also probably comes down to tax incentives. And so the New Zealand government provides 20% tax incentive, which means that if you bring in, a $666 million production, oh, my camera's gone again. Well, this is a bad sign. Okay,
Have you changed cameras?
No, so my camera is just the normal camera I use. So I'm not really sure why it's just turning off. But I'm going to try and
Okay. Well,
fix this.
While you sort that out, I'll talk about Lord of the Rings, shall I?
Yeah.
All right, because 5150 listener Richard Lambeth asked me the same questions about Lord of the Rings as well. And he said, obviously, we must be going to talk about it on the show, right? It's a filmmaking podcast.
Yeah, it's a podcast about our lives.
And at the time, I hadn't really formed an opinion. So I went onto the internet and I did 5 minutes research.
Yep.
I read one or two articles, and now I'm an expert on the matter and have formed my opinion. So thank you, Richard, for prompting that.
Mm-hmm.
And the opinion that I formed is like, basically, it was never promised to us.
No.
Before the Amazon series was approved, we had only done the movies. And that was, as far as we were aware, the only things we were going to do: the movies and the Hobbit. And hopefully, maybe Amazon will do a series, and if we're lucky, maybe they'll shoot it here, sort of thing. And fortunately, our government managed to secure that deal, and untold millions of dollars were injected into our economy, and our film industry, got to make that whole first season of the new Lord of the Rings series. So, good on them. I'm proud of you, Labour government. And we haven't, stopped being Middle Earth or anything. We're still the place that Lord of the Rings was shot. The originals were shot. And, basically we've just gone back to the same situation we were in before the series was approved to shoot here in the first place. And we're lucky that, we're much better off now. And we've got a much more sort of mature film industry and way more infrastructure and studios and all those types of things that will eventually attract new clients, to fill the void. And it might not happen overnight, and it might not be projects as big as Lord of the Rings, but, that's life. Nothing happens overnight, basically. So I share the same opinion as you, Guy, that the company is moving the production to the UK as part of a wider business plan, and that it makes sense if that's where they have, more and better crews and more and better facilities, and they don't have to travel to the other side of the freaking world, something which has been impossible for 99.9% of all humans that have ever existed. Especially now that the vaccine does seem to be working, and countries are managing to kind of get it under control and all that type of thing. So it makes sense to me, and I don't feel like I feel like people are like, oh, I can't believe Jacinda let Lord of the Rings get away, and then those same fucking people, are like, oh, I can't believe Jacinda's giving big tax breaks to the movies. It's just these fucking right wingers, man.
It doesn't make sense. It's like one of the bigger reasons why we probably didn't get season 2 is we didn't give big enough tax breaks.
Well, I think, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly.
Which is also the very thing that was being rallied and rowed against. And also, there's another big issue here, which is this whole thing of like the indigenous people clause idea, the idea that, hey, if you're going to come and shoot over here, you need to cast a certain amount of no-name actors like fucking you in Lord of the Rings instead of Viggo Mortensen. It's like, look, I'm sure Viggo would love to have Viggo, but you've got to cast Harley Neville because he's a Kiwi and you're shooting in New Zealand. And there's a lot of this stuff going on, and it's like, I get the principle of it, but it also makes that's exactly the reason why people would also not come here. You put these restrictions on it, and you put these limitations, and you put these conditional things on. You can do that if you're offering the best conditions. So if you go, hey, you get a 50% tax break if you come here, but yes, you do have to cast a certain amount of Kiwis in main roles and blah, blah, blah. Then Amazon goes, well, 50% of a $666 million budget, that sounds pretty good to us. Let's see what old Harley Neville is doing. Let's cast him. Let's get it.
Let's get him up here.
Get him up here. Let's put him in his alpha years. Let's hear his.
We'll fix him in post. We'll fix him in post.
Let's hear his Frodo accent again.
Oh, Sam, you're a true friend.
Let's dig out those old gay Lord of the Ring parodies. Let's make it happen, and we're good. And I think that the issue is that that's just not realistic, because if you're only offering,
ain't nobody casting Harley Neville in Lord of the Rings.
Well, if you're offering something that's pretty much exactly the same as everywhere else, and putting additional conditions,
and adding Harley
and
Neville
making
to it?
Harley Neville be in it. It's just not going to happen. And it's also like, it's interesting because on the one hand you go, like, that's cool that you want to, that we, New Zealand, want to get New Zealanders cast in these big things. Like, that's awesome. But but on the same token, if someone comes to you and goes, all those people that you want to cast in this film that you feel are perfect for the role, well, tough shit. You got to cast Harley Neville instead.
Yeah, but when
creatively, you're gonna go, fuck this shit.
No, but when they're doing the deals, they don't know who they're casting in that role for Harley Neville.
Oh, yes,
Elf number 4 who walks on. No, they haven't cast at that point. They have no idea about schedules or anything like that. They have no idea. They might have people they'd like to get in there, but that'll be all good. They'll just use Harley Neville, and I'll walk on and go, my liege. Yes, my liege.
Well, I'm referring more to the. Okay, here we go. I just think I've got my
camera fixed.
Could be.
Tyler on the live stream, referring to my fake vagina purchase earlier, says single when ready to pringle.
Great line.
Genius.
Great line.
I should have thought of that.
Yeah. So he also says it feels weird making Middle Earth not in New Zealand. Oh, well, that's the thing. Is like, I think in terms of our landscapes, we've got some very Middle Earthy looking stuff. But also, so does a lot of places probably.
So does Scotland.
Yeah, so does like South Africa and stuff. So maybe but we do have some pretty amazing shit. But also, well, maybe we should spare a thought for Peter Jackson, who we shit on multiple times. Not us personally, but the industry.
I've never taken a shit on Sir Peter Jackson.
The industry shit on him multiple times, but he brought all those productions over here, and he kept them over here, and injected hundreds of millions of dollars into the industry, and provided some of these studios which now house some of these other productions that come over here. So, yeah. Egg on your face. New Zealand.
Avatar, for example, is here probably as a result of Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
On your PJ.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Sir Peter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what
that's
it is.
life.
Yeah.
And remember, that's life.
Yeah. Hello, Dottie Pie on the live stream. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah.
So you're in isolation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got 7 days to go. They say it's the last 4 days.
What do they say about the last 4 days?
Everything's sweet up until then, but the last 4 days.
They say that's the hardest mentally.
They say that's when you start going a little stir crazy.
Going a little loopy.
Yeah.
Well, it's lucky for me that I spent all of 2020 in isolation, extremely similar to this, except for I didn't have 2 shower heads, and I didn't have a big space where I could walk. I can pace this room. I didn't have a beautiful view of the airport and the ocean, and I didn't have a 45-minute walk with other people every day, and I didn't have the ability to go for smoke breaks with my colleagues. Even though I don't smoke, but just go out there and stand with them for 20 minutes. I had none of that during 2020, during our 2020 lockdown. So this is easy for me. I'm cruising through. I'm an old hand at this shit now.
Yeah.
Like I've been not touching door handles and staying away from people for fucking years now. So this is easy. This is the luxury version of 2020.
Yeah. Well, look, it seems totally chill to me. Like what I would find inconvenient is that I had to work on my laptop screen instead of my big large monitors.
It is a bit annoying.
You know, I'd be quite upset about that. I'd also get a little bit worked up if my internet wasn't running quick enough.
Yeah, it seems pretty good, but I think during the day when everybody's on it, they're all just sitting around. It definitely slows down a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean overall, very pretty positive experience. Pretty happy with it.
I do think that your experience is also relevant to the hotel that you're in. The standard of that hotel.
Of course.
All that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
I got the old classic Nevs.
Yeah.
It's just classic Nevs.
You Harley Nevilled it.
I just Harley Nevilled it again. Here I am in the fancy 5-star hotel, getting the fancy food. The Uber Eats delivered to my door every day, three times a day. When I want a coffee, if I want a large latte, I just call them up. I just go 1, 2, 3. Yes, hello, could I get a large latte, please? And they go, yep. And they know my room and all that already because it's all comes through when I call them. Hang up. 15 minutes later, 10 minutes later, large latte shows up at my door. I just pay wave it. No big deal because it's not like I'm paying for anything else. So I just pay wave it. I'm living the dream up in here.
And also, you're sort of operating in a way with a degree of quite literally immunity because you've been vaccinated. So I feel like the big fear when you get back to isolation, if you're not vaccinated, is I'm going to catch it in isolation while I'm waiting to get out of isolation and be stuck for however extra long. And while it's possible that you could become a carrier, it's definitely a lot less likely. No matter which way you slice it, you don't have that to be as worried about.
Well, I'll tell you something to worry about. You want to hear something to worry about? On Monday last week, I flew into New Zealand from Japan on a direct flight. In the news yesterday, there was an article in the Herald saying that on Monday, on a direct flight from Japan, 2 people had COVID and they've now been caught in isolation. They were identified as having it on their first day as soon as they landed type thing. So they must have failed their day one test. Now, that's obviously a concern because they were almost certainly on my plane. I don't know how many direct flights came from Japan that day. Maybe more than one, maybe not. But also, when our plane landed, I actually forgot about this until my colleague pointed it out. It was like 4:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. I forgot everything that was going on. But my plane landed, and before they let us off, we were all standing there for a wee bit on the plane. And then eventually over the intercom, it goes, "Yes, hello, this is such the captain speaking. Can we please get, Bob and Sally to get off the plane, please? If Bob and Sally are on the plane, please come to the front." And then so Bob and Sally, who were somewhere fucking up the back of me somewhere, came past and walked the length of the plane, and then got off before us. And I didn't think much of it, whatever, until the news yesterday. And my colleague goes, "I wonder if that's to do with those two people that got pulled off the plane, because two people have tested positive, and two people got pulled off the plane when we landed." Now, for that to work, then they obviously would have to somehow have realized that these people were positive while we were in the air, or let them on the plane while being positive. So maybe those two things were unrelated, but that, or maybe they did a test, right? And then the test results didn't come in time or something like that. And then they got on the plane anyway somehow, and then the test results came in and they were positive. But most probably it's not as unrelated. I don't know. But anyway, probably point is that there was quite possibly there was two people on my plane with COVID. And so let's see what happens over the next few days. I've got another test on day 12, and today's day 7. So let's see if I get sick in the next 5 days and fail on the 12th.
Now, is there any way that another guest could sneak into your room? Like, obviously with your
permission, upon invitation.
Yes.
Well, it's hard to say. I think actually you'd probably get away with it if the person was on the same floor as you. Like, so say my neighbor and I were chatting on Facebook, and I was like, "Just pop over, baby. Just pop next door." And she just had to scooch out of her room and then scooch into my room. There is CCTV, but I don't think they'd be watching it so closely that they would notice something like that. So I feel like you could probably do that. If you were doing it with somebody who was on a different floor, I feel like it'd be a little more difficult because they'd have to ride in the elevator. Now, they are allowed to ride in the elevator, and they can say that they're just riding, to go down and have a cigarette, because you can book a cigarette smoke 24/7 every 20 minutes. And so I guess you could do that, but it would make it riskier, because you'd be seen to be getting off at the 11th floor and, then getting out again on the 8th floor or whatever. It would look weird. But if it was your neighbor or somebody on the same floor, I do think that a corona booty call is within the realms of possibility.
Yeah.
A COVID-69.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you, so obviously the idea is they come and get you to take you for your walk, right?
You go down there, you've got a card, so you can go. I could go outside right now if I wanted, but I'd get to the front counter and they'd say, "Have you got a booking? What's your room number?" And I'd be like, "I don't have a booking."
Yeah.
Now maybe they'd let me out for a smoke anyway, but otherwise they might not. And you've got to have a wristband as well to prove that you've passed your first tests. And so yeah, you get down the bottom, and then you have to give them your number, whether it's for a walk or not, and they tick you off the list and let you through. And if you're not on the list, you don't get through, presumably.
So but this is what I'm saying is you're just chilling, right? You open the door to your room. You just walk out, and you walk around your hall, and you walk around to certain points where you cannot walk further, such as the front of house area. So presumably if you just felt like it, and you would just have to assume that if you walked out of the door right now and walked down the hallway and would just stroll along the hallway like happy as Larry, that what would happen is someone would see you on the CCTV and say, Mr. Neville, and you need to get back in your room right now, sir. And maybe a security guard would come up and escort you, right? That's what happened. But we're all based on the presumption that no one is gonna step outside of their room apart from when they've got their booking, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but they do also have guards walking around. Like I see the Defence Force people. Sometimes I'll be going down for my cigarette break, and I'll see the Defence Force people there. And so, they'll be riding around the elevators, just kind of like checking where people are. They'll be like, "Off for a smoke, are you?" And I'll be like, "Yes, sir. Private Doofy reporting for duty, sir. My brother's in the army. My granddad was in the Air Force. My cousin was in the army.
I wanted to be a pilot, but I couldn't pass physics.
I was too short, and I couldn't pass maths and physics."
Oh yeah, well, okay, that's interesting. Well, I guess they're just I guess you don't know how strict it is until you until you decide to go jaywalking, really.
Well, it's a lot. You can see instantly, as soon as you get into New Zealand, you can see it's a lot stricter than it is in Japan. Yeah. In Japan, it was just loose as. Same in Singapore, was loose as. Even on the plane on Singapore Airlines, when I sat on the plane and flew to Singapore when I left New Zealand, the bubbles are so loose. I'm like, man, there's so many holes in this, bubble.
Yeah.
But I saw an interesting pictogram, I guess you'd call it, right, of a whole bunch of Swiss cheese. So imagine Swiss cheese. That's the one with the holes in it. Imagine a slice of Swiss cheese. That's one layer of defense. And then behind that one, have a wee gap, and then put another slice of Swiss cheese with holes in different places. And then another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And the idea is that, the virus might make it through a hole on the first one, but then not hit a hole on the second one. Or it might hit a hole on the first one and the second one, but the third one stops it. It's called the Swiss cheese defense, where no defense is perfect. You're not going to completely stop cross-contamination, but the more of these defensive walls you have in the way, the more likely you are to stop the virus making its way, through. So the mask is one wall of the defense. It's got holes in it, sure, but then you combine it with social distancing, and now you've got two layers of defense, and they've both got holes in them, sure, but then you combine it with the vaccine, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that all makes sense. Look, yeah, we'll see how you just keep us updated. We'll see how we go.
Yeah. See if I get it or not. See if I catch it from those two people on my plane that were going. Because remember I said last week that you got to go into the bathroom and take your mask off and take a big shit in the bathroom on the plane just to get some fresh air, because you can't take your mask off on the plane at all. Well, I mean, if I was doing that, and if they were doing that in the same
toilet
as me, then I might as well have just, licked the toilet seat and just got the COVID from them.
So
might as well have just had a threesome with them.
How was that trip back? Same things, plenty of room, just happy as Larry.
Plenty of room, but it was a smaller. I couldn't really stretch out. I had a whole row to myself, but it was a smaller row, so I couldn't really get very comfortable. They didn't have the internet. I
had a whole row to myself, but it was a bit smaller, so I couldn't get comfy.
But you got to remember, I'm comparing this to Singapore Airlines. Yeah. They have Wi-Fi on the plane. I could really stretch out on the plane. The service was excellent. I see what Air New Zealand did. When COVID happened, Air New Zealand very wisely kept all of its most experienced air hostesses and hosts. But of course, these are all the older ones, aren't they? So it's like you fly Air New Zealand now, and it's like you're being served down at the old, down at the old folks' home. You're like, she's like, "What would you like?" And I'm like, "I'll have the Chardonnay, please." And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "The Chardonnay, please." So, or the guy.
You can't order Chardonnay.
Of course you can, mate. Of course you can. I've been Air New Zealand has a thing. It's got a screen where you just click on it. You go drinks. You don't even need to press the button and then get them to come over and go, hi, hey, sorry, do you think I could please possibly have an alcoholic beverage? No, you just press the button and then on the thing, and then it goes, what would you like? And then there's wine, there's beer, there's like fizzy drink, anything you want, chips, cookies, all the rest of it. You just go, I'll have 2 times Sauvignon Blanc, please.
How many drinks did you have on the flight back?
Not too many, like 3 or 4 throughout the course.
And where was your stopover this time?
No stopover, direct.
And how long was that? That was the 14 hours or something.
10 and a half.
So how was it 30 hours the first time? You went round the wrong way.
Yeah, I had to go to Singapore first. So the first time I went to Singapore for 10 and a half hours. Then I stopped in Singapore for 3 hours. Then I caught a 7.5 hour plane to Tokyo. So now we're at 20 hours. But then it took 7 hours to get through the airport in Tokyo because it was so disorganized. And we were just sitting in the airport all day. And then we got on a bus. The bus took us to the taxi, and the taxi took us to the hotel. So if you count the time from when you picked me up, from when I got in your car and drove me to the airport, from that moment, I checked the time. And then I checked the time when I got finally into my room, and it had been 33.5 hours.
Long time.
That's a journey.
Yeah. They shouldn't have sent you the wrong way around the world, I guess. There's a lesson there.
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah. I got some listener feedback on that episode from Japan. This is from Daniela, who's a new listener.
Oh, okay.
And I had posted saying something about the podcast, and she commented, "You've got a podcast?" And I said, "Yes, but don't listen to it. It's very offensive." And then this was her feedback on that, because she obviously went away and listened to it anyway. Today I listened to your last episode, live from Japan. In my opinion, your podcast is not too offensive. It's real. People who want to and can will see beyond the jokes. They'll understand your messages. Thank you. I think the podcast is light, funny, a bit spicy sometimes. Also, providing some information about New Zealand's film industry with, of course, personal opinions on films and other stuff. Keep going. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you very, very much.
We will endeavour to do just that.
Yes. Now, I did also have another movie review.
Okay.
Which was I Am Mother. Now, have you seen this? Have you heard about this? I Am Mother.
Sounds familiar.
It's a sci-fi.
Oh, yep, I've seen it.
It's about
I've seen it.
A robot mum.
Yep.
You've seen it? Okay, good. So I liked it. How old is it? Do you think we can talk spoilers, or people will be like, "Oh no, I'm just about to watch that"?
That's older than Joker, so I think we'll be safe.
Okay, so I guess we're going to talk spoilers then. I'm sorry, everybody, if you don't want to hear spoilers for I Am Mother, tune out. But I liked it, and what I liked about it was that it was a sort of a happy ending, because on the one hand, Mother had killed everybody on the planet, but on the other hand, she had done it for the benefit of humanity, because she planned on repopulating the earth with humans which were morally, physically, and intellectually superior to the old warlike barbarian humans that were, destroying the planet and ruining it for ourselves. Mother, a logical AI being, looked at the equation and said, okay, well, obviously the problem here is the humans. So we get rid of the humans and we repopulate the earth with this sort of a new breed, smaller, same size physically, but smaller population, and just, a better, more elite, smaller population. And I like that. And then at the end of it all, it turns out that this girl that is being raised by this robot that she's training this whole time, this girl is her planned leader for the future of humanity. So she has to pass a bunch of exams to sort of reach that, and she doesn't know it, but actually these exams are life and death. If she fails the exam in the wrong way, then Mother will just kill her off and start again with a brand new embryo, because she's got like a big bank of embryos or fucking fertilized egg. I don't know, whatever it is, however the fuck biology works. And And so, yes, anyway, it turns out this girl that she's been training the whole time, she's planning on her being the new leader of humanity. And then this girl manages to pass all of the tests in various ways. And then Mother actually lets her live and take control of all of these embryos of the future humans, because that's what she's been getting trained up for this whole time anyway, was, to take over the running of this lab so that Mother, her task being completed, can step down. And so that's what she does. So essentially it's a happy ending, and I like that. I like that.
I think it does really, though, pinpoint a significant problem with artificial intelligence in general, which is that if any artificial intelligence does become sentient and self-aware, and its design is to kind of help the human race, it's going to come to the same conclusion as Mother, but to some degree. Either it's going to go, I need to get rid of a certain amount of humans just to reduce all the, excesses, or I need to develop a different type of humans. But right now, these humans we currently got, I got to get rid of those ones for sure. And the problem with that is we're the current humans, Harley, you and I.
Yeah.
So that's not going to work out too well for us.
No.
But yeah, I thought it was a pretty decent film as well. I've got a couple of film reviews myself.
Well, back to AI just for a second. I think the problem with AI won't actually be them becoming sentient. I feel like maybe that's a long way away. I think it's worse than that. They'll be completely cold, indifferent. They won't have any type of sentience whatsoever. They will just be following rules to a T, but they'll be rules that humans programmed. And because humans are fallible, they will, even if they have the best intentions, they will accidentally program these robots to, essentially kill us. Like, for example, you go, I want to have a robot that is going to enforce, the law, and we're going to decide what the laws are. And we go, okay, cool. Well, don't steal, don't kill, don't be homosexual. And then the robots go, cool, don't steal, don't kill, don't be homosexual. If anybody's stealing or killing or homosexual, we're going to punish them. And of course, the problem there is that humans are wrong about the homosexuality being illegal, but humans can eventually come around and fix that again. The law system can, adjust and can eventually go, okay, no, we're going to decriminalize this now. Whereas an AI isn't going to decriminalize it. It's going to go, cool, no, the rule is no homosexuality. Therefore, whenever you have homosexual sex, a robot comes bursting through the door with a minigun, like in RoboCop, when that one gets out of control and, guns down the whole place.
Look,
we can't have that.
All we have to do is apply Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. So we've just got to program this in, and we'll be sweet. The first law is that a robot shall not harm a human or by inaction allow a human to come to harm. The second law is that a robot shall obey any instruction given to it by a human. And the third law is that a robot shall avoid actions or situations that could cause it to come to harm itself. So as long as we got the 3 laws of robotics, I mean, yes, he did dedicate an entire career to how those laws were circumvented in interesting and sometimes disturbing ways. But let's start with the 3 laws of robotics.
Yeah, well, it's a good place to begin.
I've been watching a few things because I was actually sick. So you were been in quarantine for a week. I just had the flu for a week. And so I was sick for a week. So I did not do that much, which meant that I actually got to watch a few things. And so I watched the TV series Invincible, which is available on Amazon Prime. Have you heard about this one?
No. No.
Okay. So this is based on a comic book by the creator of The Walking Dead called Robert Kirkman. And it's basically about a boy discovering his superpowers. Except that much like Robert Kirkman's other sort of comics and stories, it's quite subversive, and it takes a little bit of some interesting detours. And the primary one being, which was also explored in The Boys, which I also talked about on the show, is that superheroes aren't necessarily going to be good, and in fact, they could be really bad. And what happens if a superhero or superheroes are potentially not like Superman, but sort of more like proclaiming themselves to be gods. And all that would mean, if you had someone that was more powerful than every other person on Earth, what would that mean? What would that do? And so it's basically about the story of a boy who's just discovering his powers, who is, and his father, who is the most powerful superhuman on Earth, who is actually alien, like a Superman from a Krypton-style place called Omni-Man, who maybe starts off seeming like a good dude, but quickly it becomes apparent that he's not so good. And I'm not going to go into full-on spoilers, but I just say that it's a fucking awesome TV series, and really like nothing you've ever seen. If you want to see like the brutality of what being superhuman could mean, I highly encourage checking that out. You would
does it? Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you, Guy Pigden, think that I, Harley Neville, would like
Guarantee you'd like this one. Guarantee it.
Oh, you give it the guarantee.
I guarantee it.
You give it the guarantee.
I guarantee. I give it the guarantee. No doubt about it.
The guarantee.
You'll enjoy this one.
All right. Okay, well, I better fucking give it a go. The problem is it's on Amazon. I can't even watch The Man in the High Castle.
Well, you can watch...
which is like a wet dream for me.
You can watch... I'm pretty sure you can watch them both, because you've got the login.
It's about the Nazis winning World War II and Japan winning World War II and taking over America.
Just...
The West Coast is ruled by Japan, and the East Coast is run by the Nazis.
All your fantasies fulfilled. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you...
It's an interesting idea to explore, an interesting alternative history to explore. What if the axis of evil had won World War II?
Well, you can watch them both on the prime account that you have access to, Harley, I'm pretty sure.
Well, yeah.
So I'd probably get onto that. But yeah, Invincible, which was very, very good. I've also started watching the most recent series of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is hilarious as always. And I also watched...
Is it getting you all motivated to write The Project Season 2?
It didn't really hit me that way. It didn't really hit me that way. It did make me laugh, but it didn't really... I got more motivated from that quarantine hotel idea than I from watching Curb in terms of like, oh, yeah, we could go here, we could do this. Yes, I think. But what was the other thing that I do want to give a quick review to The Last of Us Part 2, the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe you played The Last of Us Part 1.
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Well, you would...
I know that you were in the room. Excited about it. I've seen you play it a little bit.
You're in the room.
Yeah. But I've never actually played it myself. It doesn't, not because it looked like I wouldn't enjoy it, but just because I've reached an age where you can't play every game that looks good.
Yeah, well, that was The Last of Us 1 was one of my favorite games of all time, and I really enjoyed it. It had everything that I like. It had, good characters. It had like kind of survival horror style elements. It had zombies. I mean, they were called clickers, and but they're essentially zombies, really. They're just with a sort of a kind of a fungus infection. But that was kind of an interesting take on it. And at the core of the story was Joel, the main character, and Ellie, who he ends up sort of teaming up with and rescuing. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful game. It was magical. Game of the year, all that sort of thing. It was great. And then everyone was waiting for The Last of Us Part 2. And first it was like, oh, we don't plan to make a Last of Us Part 2. And then it was like, oh, yeah, we are going to make it. And then it was like, it's going to be released at the end of this year. And then the end of next year. And the end of next year. And we literally, it was like 3 or 4 years of delays and a sort of a 6-year gestation period to produce The Last of Us 2, and then I never played it because I was a grown-up who can't do fun things anymore. I can only do boring things. I can only have time for boring things in my life, and the fun and joy in my life can no longer exist. So obviously I didn't have time to play it, but my girlfriend got it, and we sort of started playing it together with mainly her playing and me watching, to be perfectly honest. And we sort of played through it, and I fucking hated it. Fucking hated it. And I hated it primarily because of the story. And here's a spoiler alert. And again, this game has been out for like over a year now. So, but tune out if you're planning, but I don't. So basically, they pull an Alien 3 on us. And that is the central character, Joel, is killed very early on in the game. And then basically you play Ellie going out on a mission of revenge. And no, absolutely not. So this is the problem. When you kill someone that you've invested 20 to 30 hours of time to and have, has been saved from mortal peril several times, and then at the beginning of the next game, you just go, he's fucking dead. He's fucking gone. Suck it, everyone. You wanted to see that dynamic expand and evolve? Tough titties. It really fucking pisses you off. And the whole story is meant to be like, she goes out for revenge. You learn about the person that kills Joel, and you learn that she's not that bad a person. And because these people have both been out seeking revenge, everyone around them, everyone they love has been killed because of revenge. Revenge is bad, Harley. You shouldn't go out seeking revenge. If you go out seeking revenge, first dig 2 graves. Okay? Because this is the result of having revenge and ill intentions in your heart.
One for them and one for you.
So
preferably.
So that's the kind of, so you get it? Do you get it? We're teaching you something here. And it's fucking nonsense. Like, I don't give a shit. If you kill Joel, I'm going to kill the person that killed Joel. I don't care if they're a nice person, because I already invested 30 hours. Unless you give me 30 hours with this other person and their personality is better than that previous character, which they aren't, you're not going to turn me around to the idea of not committing revenge on them. So the whole
homicidal
revenge, 100%. They're gonna cave someone's head in with a freaking golf club. It wasn't like I just shot him to get revenge for killing the person that he killed. It's like, no, I beat him mercilessly and then ended his life finally after, a day of abuse by pummeling his head in with a golf club. Oh, but I'm actually a nice person as well. So I don't give a shit you're a nice person. I'm coming for revenge. Yeah. And so it was all just,
So do you get to kill this bitch at the end or what?
Of course you don't, because you're learning a lesson, Harley.
It's a learning mode.
Yeah. Teachable. You've learned at the end that revenge is not the answer. And the ghost of Joel will even tell you that. Stupid. Was very angry. Was very angry for a majority of that game. And I was hanging on to the revenge.
What's sad when that happened?
I was hanging on to the revenge. And then but I knew it was being taken away from me. I knew, based on this story, based on what the game developers were trying to teach me, I knew that I couldn't get my revenge. I knew it was going to come to do the right thing. But I was like, maybe they'll give me a choice where I can do the right thing or not. And I obviously won't do the right thing. Or, well, I consider the right thing to be killing the person that murdered the person that saved my life time and time again and was like a father figure to me. Of course, I saw, so making the right choice and the wrong choice, which would be to let her live, which is
subjective.
Ultimately what happened. Yeah. So anyway, Last of Us Part 2. I know it rattled a few feathers at the time of its release.
Ruffled?
Yeah. And my feathers were 100% ruffled when I had to play through it and not get my revenge. So I'm sorry if you enjoyed that game, but you're wrong.
But you're wrong. Sorry.
So I'm sorry about it. You are. And I'm very disappointed in Naughty Dog for doing that dumb shit. They should have learned from Alien 3. It's all there. You can see the mistakes, and you go, no, people just don't like that. They don't get on board with that. He could have died at the end. You could have maybe got away with that, but not at the beginning. Not like that.
I got some messages. This is unrelated to
Revenge
video games and revenge, but I got some messages from this guy Kiwi Steve. Now I wasn't sure if I should say his name or not, but he obviously wants people to go follow him. Sure. So I guess I'll say his name.
Give him a follow.
I'll do him a favor.
Kiwi Steve.
I'll shout him out on the podcast.
Yep.
So at Kiwi Steve was messaging me. He's a guy that I met one time on New Year's Eve. He kind of just got invited into this little very intimate party that I was in, and kind of was in there. It was but he was all right. He wasn't a bad guy, but he very much seemed like he was talking a good game, talking making a lot of big calls. He was a rich guy. It was a rich party. He seemed like a rich guy. He appeared to be very wealthy. He was living in a wealthy, rich place, but he was just talking a lot of crap all night. Yeah. And so it was hard to believe him with all of his claims. But
Kiwi Steve.
Anyway, on Facebook, I got a bunch of messages, right? And he's been doing this for a little while now. They're just spam messages of all these articles and, things to do with him that he's working on.
Yeah.
And so after a while, I was like, enough with the spam already. And to which he replied, Kiwi Steve replied, zero spam. If Kiwi Steve only makes $1 trillion a day, it's been a slow day. Then he loved his own comment. He reacted his own comment, which I replied, after a little while. I was like, okay, but, stop sending me unsolicited promotional material. It's not an effective marketing technique. And he was like, fair enough. Tell me how to make it better. I was just sharing my interesting information. Hashtag KS1. Hashtag Kiwi Steve. Hashtag Kiwi first Kiwi spaceman. Hashtag test pilot. And there's a whole bunch of them. And I was like, okay, look, what you need to do, mate, is you need to create content that enriches my day and insert it into my newsfeed. I'm scrolling through social media to get an endorphin kick, right? You need to give me that kick via a piece of high quality content in my newsfeed. For example, a well-written observation on something or a clever meme or a good piece of advice, right? Then you attach your promotional products to that piece of high quality content, which has given me my endorphin kick. And now I'm grateful. I'm grateful to see your fucking ad, right? Because it's like an ad. You want to reach out to a lot of people and engage them and draw them in to see your products after you've hooked them with that good quality content, right? And so when I'm working, I continue, when I'm working or otherwise occupied, and then a message pops up from someone I don't really know, which has nothing to do with me and is self-promotion for stuff that I'm not interested in, suffice to say, it doesn't give me endorphins. So I told him off.
Well, what was his reply to that?
Well, then he went off. Then he went off the rails. I should have put it in here. Hang on, I'll just grab it. And then, but go follow him at Kiwi Steve if that sounds interesting to you. He's some sort of businessman.
Because I can see it at Kiwi Steve on Twitter, but I don't think it's the same guy because he's only got 59 followers.
No, that sounds
27
right.
followers.
Right.
Sorry, 27 followers.
No, that does seem about right. And so I said all of that. I said, that's what you need to do. If you want to hook me, that's how you got to do it. And he goes, send me details in public. I have it. Hashtag traced back. Hashtag Kiwis Care. Global Services Group. And then he starts talking about the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, and the NSA, the New Zealand Embassy in Washington, this hashtag 7 Eyes network. And so it's just pages and pages of fucking hashtags and shit. And it's like, what is this guy doing? He's like a middle-aged guy. He's a little bit older. And it's like, is he using a bot? And then this bot is fucking up his day. Like he kind of like wants to just add all these hashtags to the end of all of his messages. And so he employed a bot to do it somehow. And now it's fucked up because he goes, hello, hashtag Stevie Key, Kiwi Steve, hashtag, Or is he literally sending me a message and then copy pasting all of these hashtags? I don't know. But Kiwi Steve, cut it out, mate. Enough with the spam.
Kiwi Steve.
That's all I have to say about Kiwi Steve.
Yeah, there's too many Kiwi Steves to find.
He's a space guy. He's all about the space. So his hashtags are Vlasblom. That's the name you want to keep an eye out.
That's okay.
Vlasblom.
He's got two. He's got 2 accounts.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure he's got multiple accounts because I'm sure that he's not what he appears to be.
Yeah.
That's my guess. But I mean, I have met him in real life.
Yeah.
But even in real life, he was definitely a little, suspect. I was alarm bells. My South Dunedin street rat senses were tingling. Like I was like, I don't know about this guy. But that being said, I did notice, like he did say that some stuff about funding films, and that, and then I did notice his building where I met him was in a film called Rudangi, and which was a web series which got recut into a film.
Yeah.
And has now gone on to be available on like some great platform. And so anyway, I feel like I actually saw him in the credits, or I saw some sort of something from him involved associated with that film. And it made me go, well, maybe he does actually fund films. Maybe he is just an eccentric rich guy that funds films, and maybe I shouldn't be rude to him.
You never know.
On the podcast.
Alrighty. Kiwi Steve. Yeah. He does chuck in a lot of hashtags, that's for sure.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all I've got to say about Kiwi Steve. Do you have any stories you want to add there, or should I go on to my next one?
Man, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place here.
I'm putting on deodorant, even though I'm not going to be near anybody anytime soon for any reason.
Well, your nose is still attached to you, so
yeah. It's true.
Okay, what's your next story?
Well, I did post on Facebook. Before I went to Japan, I told about 5,000 of my nearest and dearest friends that I was going to the Olympics to represent New Zealand in the rhythmic gymnastics.
I remember that.
I posted a whole status about it. I had a picture of me at the gym, like training, and I said that as someone who started training in later life, I really felt proud of my achievements of, competing at the Olympic level. And what's interesting is that a bunch of them believed me.
Yeah.
And the weirdest bit was that a few of them were people that I know in real life. And 3 of these people literally went to school with me, went to high school with me. Now, none of these 3 people thought it was weird that their friend Harley, who's in his late 30s with no past experience or interest in gymnastics, has suddenly qualified to compete at the highest possible level in a female-only sport. They're like, yep, that's just Harley. He's always up to something unexpected. He's a high performance athlete.
He's a joker. He's a crazy bugger.
He's performing at the most ancient and venerated games in history. A dream that highly disciplined athletes trained for years, often don't achieve. That's what Harley's doing. So I thought that was kind of weird. But I am quite proud of that reputation. It's an image I did set out to achieve since I was a youngster, this reputation of being someone who lives life and goes on surprising adventures and you just never quite know what to believe.
You just went on the least surprising adventure of all time.
Well,
the most mundane adventure of all time.
They didn't going to Japan during a pandemic is not a mundane to work on the Olympics is not a mundane adventure.
It might not have been,
but it was somewhat restricted.
You could speculate it might not have been until we got the recap last episode.
Yeah, well, it's not my fault that I was in isolation. Still, it is quite unexpected that I would suddenly be going to Japan in the middle of a pandemic where nobody can travel.
Yeah.
And here I am, vaccinated before everybody else, traveling before everybody else, barging my way into isolation when all these poor people have got they're half their family trapped overseas, and they're all, husbands are without wives and kids are without parents, and people are trying to get into New
Stranded.
Zealand, and then there's me,
Yeah.
Harley leveling my way through.
Yeah.
People at risk don't have the vaccine. I'm vaccinated.
Yeah.
Just Harley leveling my way through.
Classic. Well, we should throw out a quick who's dead this week.
Okay, that's good, because I was going to do one too. But now you're going to have to edit in that little bit. Now you're going to have to edit in the intro right now.
Oh God. Man, the last episode was a chore to edit. Had to edit out all the you cutting out. Man, you cut out so many times.
This time you'll have to cut out the camera issues on your
discussion
when you had camera issues and you were just talking about stuff that the people at home couldn't, that are listening, can't see.
So anyway, who's dead this?
Write down that time code, guy.
Who
for right now?
Who's dead this week? As it turned out, was someone who actually died in 2019, and I just didn't realize. It was just brought to my attention out of the blue, basically. So I'm going to try and add this time code in now, so I just remember. So the person who's dead this week, his name is, and not many people are going to know him. Well, maybe if you're in the film industry, you may know him if you're in the British film industry specifically, which is probably none of our listeners. But a gentleman by the name of Nick Powell passed away in 2019 after a battle with cancer. And I'm sure you haven't heard of Nick Powell, Harley.
Well, no, I'm a big fan of his skateboards.
But Nick Powell was a producer in the UK. He actually co-founded Virgin Records with Richard Branson, and he sold his part of the company before before Richard Branson was a billionaire. He was lifelong friends with Richard Branson. He used the money that he sold his section of Virgin Records for to fund his production company and make a bunch of films and executive produce several other films, such as The Crying Game with another producer called Stephen Woolley. And he then went on to found his own production company called Scala Productions, and went on to hire a young runner at that production company called Guy Pigden in 2002. And so...
Did you meet him?
I did meet him. In fact, I remember some... And we may have mentioned it a few times on the podcast before, but it's a kind of a funny story. One of my jobs was always to get home games to his soccer club, Ashton Villa. Was crucial for me to book on his credit card home games, any of the home games. So whenever they're playing here or in the UK, he wanted to go to those, and I had to book tickets. And it wasn't like now where you just go online and press a couple buttons. You had to ring up on a phone, stay on hold for like between half an hour and an hour, and then put in the credit card details and book the tickets that way. And sometimes, you'd get hung up on, sometimes you'd never get through, and you had to do all this while you were doing your actual work of the day. And it was actually one of the most frustrating things, because you were constantly half listening to this phone while actually trying to do your work as a runner. And I remember one time I didn't get the Ashton Villa tickets because I got distracted with my real fucking work, and I got called up, not to him, but so he's the big boss. I got called up to, under the boss, and she was like, what happened with the Ashton Villa tickets? And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, well, they're sold out now. And I was like, oh, well, I did call. I was on hold for quite a long time, but then I got distracted and another call came in, and a little 19-year-old kid shitting his pants. And she was like, well, Nick is not happy. Nick is not happy about this. But I'll tell you what, just make sure that it doesn't happen again. And we mean it. Don't let this happen again. And I was like, all right, okay. And I never did. I always got those tickets from then on. But so I bumped into him several times. I was called up to his office. Because he had the Miramax girls over, which were these two incredibly attractive women who were producers at Miramax, who had been sent over to the UK by the Weinsteins to discuss feature film projects with a bunch of different production companies, including Scala Productions. And anyway, what was kind of hilarious to me is he had these two, and he was like, "Oh, right, guy. This is the Miramax girls." And I was like, "Hey," and he was like, and he was just cracking open a big old thing of Chinese, like smelly Chinese food in his office with the Miramax girls. So he's like, "I don't have a fork. I need a fork. Okay, where's the fork? There's no fork. Can you get me a fork?" So I ran and got him a fork for his Chinese to eat while he was having this meeting with the Miramax girls. So that was one of my memories of him specifically. I also remember coming in hungover one time, and he was like, "Oh, you're looking a bit under the weather there," as he was passing by. And I was like, "Well, yeah, we all, as in collectively, went out for drinks last night." And he was like, "Well, what are you? How old are you?" And I was like, 19 or 20, sir, whatever I was. And he was like, "Oh, you should be bloody able to go all night. What's wrong with you? Sometimes I come in here at 7 a.m. I don't even sleep." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, well, I don't know."
You probably didn't go as hard as I did, you old cunt.
I was just like, "Oh, that's impressive, sir." And to be fair, he would sometimes come in, like have come in the clothes that he was in, have a shower, and then just go straight to work. He would do that. So he was he was a sort of a hard drinking, sort of party guy. And this was when he was in his, probably he was about 50, right? At the time that I sort of knew him. He also looked at one of my scripts for me, and was quite interested. And we sort of had some discussions, but it ultimately didn't go anywhere. But he was very gracious in the sense that as a runner, he was, he talked to me like I was a human being. He was interested when I talked about my stuff and was willing to look at it. And he just seemed like a great larger-than-life character. And he is quite famous within this kind of UK scene. And the way that I found out that he died was I was having a conversation with a producer over here. And he was like, "Oh, it was like what Nick Powell used to say, and in terms of," and he said a quote, and I was like, "Oh, I actually used to work for Nick Powell." And he's like, "Yeah, he was a pretty fascinating guy." And I was like, "Yeah, he was." "What do you mean was?" And he was like, "Oh, he's dead." And I was like, "What?" And you're like, "Yeah, I think he died in like 2019. And I was like, "No, it can't be. This man is immortal. This man will live forever. It must be, it can't be him." And then, Google a couple of seconds later, yep, he died in 2019. And Richard Branson wrote a tribute for him at that time and sort of detailed their history together. But I just want to pour one out for my friend, not really my friend, my old boss, my first film boss, Nick Powell. Shout out to him. I can't help but wonder if some of that hard living and those claims of no sleep and drinking all night may have caught up to him.
Contributed to his ultimate demise. Yes,
perhaps, potentially, very much so. But it's just one of those times in life where you're kind of floored by the concept of time and the sort of rush to the grave that we're all in. Because
well, if he was about 50 back then, it has been close to 20 years. He's knocking on 70.
He was 69. He died when he was 69.
Yeah.
And so there was two things that were shocking to me. It was shocking to me that he was dead. It was shocking to me then that I was like, well, fucking damn. That was 19 years ago. That's almost 20 years ago. Yeah, people die in 20 years. That's a long period of time. But all of it just kind of hit me hard of like, shit's getting real. Nick Powell's dead?
Well, it is, yeah.
Nick Powell's dead? Who's next?
Getting old. Who's next? Well,
Who's
is next?
next?
Well,
someone I really care
I've
about?
also,
my loved ones? What's going on? Life.
Yeah. Well, it is going to happen eventually.
Sure is.
And we have to mentally prepare for that.
Well,
as terrible as it
sadly,
sounds.
I've
been lucky so far.
I don't really think there is any way to mentally prepare for that.
Well, I think just by acknowledging that it can happen and that it will eventually happen, that the people you care about will eventually pass on. I feel like that in itself is mental preparation to acknowledge it. Because if you're not expecting it at all, it's going to really hit you in the gut.
Sure.
You know?
I feel like it's just going to hit you in the guts either way. Whether you live whether you live in total what's the word I'm looking for?
Fear of it?
No. Well, yes. Whether you live in total fear of it or whether you live in total denial of it, I just think it's going to kick you in the guts just as hard either way.
I don't know. I think it's better to be prepared for any large life-altering events. They always still kick you in the guts, but if you've somewhat thought about them beforehand, I feel like it's less of a kick in the guts. It's more of a, a slightly deflected kick in the guts.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Well, I've got a very sad episode of Who's Dead this week as well. And this is long-term listeners will remember my section on this show, Operation Befriend Dominic Hoey. It was an operation to befriend New Zealand's best poet, Dominic Hoey, back when I was conquering the world of poetry. Now, during that time, I also met a rapper who is good friends with Dominic Hoey and all of that kind of group.
I mean, we dedicated podcast to Dominic Hoey.
We did.
And your fandom of him.
Yes, exactly.
Your fandom bordering on obsession with him.
Where I would go to all the same parties as him.
And try and be cool and try and talk to him and stuff when he wasn't really interested.
Yeah. He talked to me plenty of times and was very nice to me. He was very civil. he was very civil and distant with me. No. He was always very nice to me. But anyway, look, during that time, I met a rapper. Dominic Hoey's fine.
Thank God, because Harley would be.
Dominic Hoey's fine. Okay.
And broken down right now if it was Dominic. So thank God.
But during that time, I met a rapper whose name was Todd Williams, a.k.a. Louis Nux. And it's a very sad episode.
Oh, shit. Is Louis Nux dead?
Because, yes, Kiwi rapper and podcaster from the podcast How Not to Be an Asshole, another Kiwi podcast, which did well and reached to the top things, and he top iTunes in New Zealand and stuff. He does it with Dominic Hoey. So Louis Nux, aka Todd Williams, did this show with him, How Not to Be an Arsehole. He's also a rapper with a bunch of songs behind him and associations with the punk scene back in a wee while back and that type of thing. And I met him on a number of occasions, and he was always very nice to me. He was a very nice guy every time I met him, and he even let us Pigville use some of his music on a project of ours once.
And I believe he said that we could potentially use some of his music in Older should we need to.
Yeah, I think I asked him about that as well. And then he listened to an episode of this very podcast, the Guy and Harley podcast. He listened to the episode called Muck You, the episode where you complained bitterly about a movie called The Muck.
Oh my God, that film. I've got to find out if they made that sequel that they're crowdfunding. I'm looking into that now.
He said it was funny. But he also did community work with at-risk youths and sort of lower socioeconomic suburbs in Auckland and communities in Auckland and stuff. And so all round, only very positive things to say about him. And I don't really know what happened to him. I'm not privy to that information, but he was out running on a Saturday morning. He's 42 years old. He went out running on a Saturday morning. And now he has died. And I don't know how or why, but I mean, you would speculate it was some sort of medical event if he was out running and he just kind of something happened. I mean, no, I didn't hear anything saying he was hit by a bus or anything like that. So yeah, very sad because it's he's only our age essentially.
Yeah.
So it can happen to any one of us. You got to look out for each other. So anyway, rip to Todd Williams, aka Louis Nux. We're pouring one out for you on the show right now. I'm going to pour one out down my mouth, down my throat, because he only died like yesterday.
Well, yeah, shout out Louis. Very sorry to hear about that. He seemed like a nice guy.
Now, Mark Cookson on the live stream comments that, referring to me only getting 45 minutes of exercise time while I'm in isolation, he says, "Man, I got 4 hours exercise time per day. You must be in an MIQ for delinquents." So maybe he's right. Yeah.
So I've done some research on Steve Walsh, the man who directed Muck, while you were giving your obituary of Louis Nux. And for those who don't know, there is a horror film called Muck. And that is an apt title because it is a giant piece of shit. Now, I don't normally go on here and bash other films, right? Because they can do that to me, right? You see? So
we don't. And what goes around comes around.
So
we don't like it like that.
If you go out seeking revenge, first dig 2 graves. Okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, but this is really, really bad. And it was so bad that I went on a mad rant about it on one of our earlier podcast episodes.
I believe it was like episode 3. It was really early, and it's called Muck You. So if listeners want to go back and listen to it, look for Muck You. If you're looking for something in the archive of the Guy and Harley podcast archive, Muck You.
Also, just in case you're wondering if it's just Guy and his crazy opinions, it currently holds a 2.6 out of 10 rating on IMDb.
Well, we shouldn't judge a film on its IMDb rating.
Hey man, the way I see it, if you're over 5, you've made a really great film.
Well, I'm not sure if I Survived a Zombie Holocaust is over 5.
We better do some research on that before I make that statement.
Because I feel like it didn't used to be. Yeah, what is it?
What, the zombie film?
Yeah, 4.
We'll get back to that. But
yeah, okay.
So thankfully, I know he was planning to do a Muck 2. It was going to be, the start of a fucking series or some nonsense, right? Now, thankfully, cooler heads have prevailed, and the collective audience and film industry has respectfully rejected that concept, and Muck 2 does not exist. Now, it would have come to fruition by now if it was going to. But there is danger on the horizon because Living Dead Presents Fog City is an upcoming title scheduled, according to IMDb, to be released in October or Halloween of 2021, which is directed by the same Stephen Walsh. So if you are sort of, wondering where this man has gone in the last 5 years since the release of Muck, he has not made anything else, but is in apparently post-production on Living Dead Presents Fog City.
Okay.
No further details on that one, according to IMDb. And just to double check where we're at in terms of
5 out of 10, exactly 5 out of 10.
What did I just say? If you're 5 out of 10 or above, you've done a good film.
Good film. So there you go. If anybody would like to give us a rating on IMDb, go along and search for I Survived a Zombie Holocaust on IMDb. You can give it a rating out of 10. We recommend that you give it a 6 to 9 rating out of 10 because they get suspicious of 10 out of 10 ratings and maybe like disregard them. So give it like a 6, 7, 8, 9 rating on IMDb. You don't even need an IMDb account because you can sign up with Facebook. Just say yes, 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 yes. I sign up. I agree. Here's my soul. I promise you the soul of my firstborn child. With your Facebook account, and then IMDb will let you post a rating and a review there.
Also,
I've mentioned that on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Guy and Harley. I've shared that there already. So if you guys want to go and give us a rating, the IMDb for I Survived a Zombie Holocaust is currently on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Guy and Harley, where you can give us a rating. And that would really help us if you enjoy the show. Think of it as like giving us a tip.
And I'm just going to throw out some of the most recent reviews of the zombie film.
Okay.
First one, 4 out of 10.
Not bad.
Unnecessary is the title. Another Zomcom cash grab that just didn't need to be made. The characters are barely likable. The plot is derivative, but at least some of the kills are passable. Derivative of what? You fucker?
Yeah.
What the fuck is it derivative of?
Well, at least he gave it a 4, not a 1.
Yeah, but derivative. The characters are barely likable. Sure, that's fine. Don't like characters? Okay, they're not likable. All right, whatever.
I thought the characters were very likable.
But the plot is derivative. Well, derived from what? What's the other fucking movie where real zombies attack a zombie film set? Tell me that.
That was done not after
Exactly.
us.
That was done before 2014. Fucking someone tell me, please. Maybe that Big Brother one.
Yeah. Set of the Dead.
It is something of the dead. Yeah.
I Survived a Zombie Apocalypse was one of them as well. It was a reality show.
A reality show. Can't count that. Derivative.
Yeah, doesn't count. Yeah.
Derivative my balls.
It's derivative of The Greats. It's derivative of Brain Dead.
Okay, coming back. So turn it back around. That's a 4 out of 10. Most recent review. 9 out of 10. I don't know what... Oh, great zombie satire with all the gore. This guy gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie MC52015. He gets it. Or she gets it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you're looking for if you don't like this movie. Comedy/horror is what I was looking for, and this was perfect. I feel like whoever did this was going for Mel Brooks and Sam Raimi teaming up. If that sounds like what you like, give it a watch. I concur.
Well, thank you to that listener. To
Jamie
that reviewer.
MC-52015. Thank you very much.
Jamie McDowell, New Zealand celebrity singer. Jamie McDowell. It was probably her. Well, speaking of movies, I did get sent a script with the potential of acting in a short film. And I'm going to read for you just the opening, setup, okay? This is just the opening setup of the film. Okay. Interior. Box. Unknown. Beams of red and blue light puncture through dozens of tiny holes that line the walls of this minute metal box, which is surrounded by an ominous haze. We can hear a low-end rumble, pipes dripping, the clatter of chains, and now a faint but growing thud. Woven together like a pit of vipers are two disheveled police officers, Sergeant Caleb Woodgate and Deputy Timothy Davis. Despite Woodgate's appearance, he remains strikingly attractive in his sweat-stained uniform. His eyes are black like a raven's, and he's built as if he were a Panzer tank.
What?
Panzer tank.
He's built like a Panzer tank. Okay.
Yeah. Panzer just means tank, so I guess he's actually sort of saying he built like a tank.
Why don't you just say built like a tank? Why are you going to throw Panzer in there?
Well, because obviously it's a German tank, all right? It's obviously he is built like a
very
German
specific type of tank. He's built like a very specific type of tank, not just a generic regular tank.
Panzer just means tank in German. Doesn't matter if it's an English tank or another tank, it's going to be called a Panzer in German. And so he's built like a Panzer tank, apparently. Now, that's Woodgate, okay? Now, Davis, on the other hand, is the epitome of dishevelment. Where Woodgate is a uniformed Adonis, Davis is his schlubby acquaintance. Now, Guy, you tell me, which role do you think he was suggesting that I read for?
Well, I I've seen you in real life, and I've seen you acting on the screen, and I hate to break it to you, but you, my friend, do not look like you're built like a Panzer tank.
But I do in real life, right? Just not on screen.
No, I mean everywhere you don't look like that. So I would have to assume that the schlubby opposite of the real handsome guy is you.
Yes. Well, I'm surprised that you got that, but yes.
Wild guess, but you are correct.
That is what he was suggesting I were to go for that role. Now, I read it, and ultimately I decided not to go for it. Not because I'm offended, not because I'm horribly, horribly offended.
That you are the Danny DeVito to this Arnold Schwarzenegger guy in Twins in this short film. You're not offended by that, so let's get that out the way. Yep.
Let's clear that up right now. No, so it was... but I said no because there's a couple of reasons. One is that it's an unpaid short film, and I was going to be like having to get all squished up in a box with this guy for the whole shoot. And two was that I just wasn't really, I felt like the script needed a little bit more work. And so I just wasn't really, I liked the idea of a very contained environment, which is two cops trapped in a box. They've tried something, it's gone wrong, and now they've ended up in the hands of a criminal organization in a box together. I quite like that as a setting for a short film.
Well, I really enjoyed that opening description apart from the Panzer tank.
Yeah.
I was on board. I was on board with it. It was really bringing, it was really bringing me in. It was drawing me in until the Panzer tank, and then.
Yeah,
and then I feel like
until we randomly started speaking German.
They're just a touch too far, but before that,
added German
had me. You lost me at Panzer.
Well, related to acting, you have seen a cut, not the final cut, but you've seen a cut of my ad in which I speak Mandarin. Turned out excellent. I'm looking forward to putting that on my show reel. And long-term listeners will remember that a little while ago I did an ad where I had to speak entirely in Mandarin. All of my lines were in Mandarin, and of course I don't speak Mandarin.
So you had to do some acting.
Had to do some what's known as acting. And I've seen it now, and I like it, and I'm looking forward to it coming out. I'm looking forward to sharing it with everybody. What do you think?
I thought it was really good. I thought you'd really generated some great production value there in the locations that you used, and also just the lighting and style of it. It looked really nice. And I thought that your performance was very good. And overall, it really came together excellently. I did critique the director of photography on one of his lens choices. And that was really the only negative that I could say about it.
What was the lens choice issue?
So you essentially for those that are sort of trying to picture this, you have your sort of your wide shot, and then you have your close-ups, your coverage. And within the scenes, that's the wide shot is a push-in, a dolly track-in on you. And then sometimes you cut to a close-up, which is either a single on you, which means that you're the only person in frame, or it's an over-the-shoulder, and that obviously means that someone else's shoulder is in the frame while looking at you. And my issue was that I believe he stuck on the same lens when switching to the close-ups. And this lens slightly bows and warps perspectives, especially when being a bit closer to your subject, which means that your sort of, I guess what you're saying is your beauty shots, these close-ups are your beauty shots, which are still, like I said, I'm nitpicking here. They do look very good. The close-ups do look nice. You're nicely lit and everything. However, the lens, because the lens is not a 50 millimeter lens, you're just a little bit distorted. And, when there's an arm on your shoulder, it's just a bit wide. and just a bit nyeh. And so my critique to him was you should have swapped your lens in the close-ups. But I believe there was a reason that he didn't, because I think he was pushing in on the close-ups as well. And if he were to do that, it would have been very difficult to do that with a 50, I believe was his reasoning.
You talked to the director of photography about it directly?
I did. I brought my concerns to him.
Sir Isaac Newcomb.
Sir Isaac Newcomb. I brought my concerns to him. And, you know, there's nothing a director of photography likes more than an uneducated director's opinion on some spec ad that he did. And that person telling him what lens he should have picked. The director of photography loves that. So if you have a director of photography, please feel free to chime in with annoying remarks such as this, and see how they how they respond. Because yes, if I was a director of photography, I would have said, "Oh, fuck off, mate! I'll pick my own lenses. Who gives a shit what you think?"
Yeah.
And like I said, nitpicking. It still looked very good. Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, I suspect it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah, it's definitely time to wrap it up.
So it has been a pleasure. We hope that you guys will hit thumbs up wherever you're listening. You'll hit like, you'll hit subscribe, hit follow, write us a review somewhere. Go to facebook.com/Guy and Harley and follow us. Go to olderfilm.com and watch our latest feature film. You can also watch Emmy the Vegan on Tubi and Amazon Prime. And you can also watch I Survived the Zombie Holocaust, which we've spoken about tonight. Now, it's meant to be on Amazon Prime, but last time I checked, it wasn't actually there. So I don't know, but it's definitely out there. It's on iTunes and stuff. But we don't really give a shit because we don't get paid.
We don't care.
But when we get it, get it back, when we get the rights back, we're going to do a big push next year to get people to rewatch it or watch it if they haven't seen it yet. And we'll actually get paid once we get the rights back. And so... go watch I Survived the Zombie Holocaust, watch Older the movie, go watch Emmy the Vegan, go hit thumbs up, go give us a review on IMDb, all of those cool things. And also make sure you come back next week because, you know, we love entertaining you guys.
Well, it'll potentially be your final night.
Yeah, well, should we do another one from isolation? I've got 1 week left. So, I mean, obviously... I'm happy to do another one. I got nowhere to be.
Well, you say that, but we originally tried to schedule this podcast for Friday. And you were like, sorry, mate, I've got plans.
Yeah.
Lockdown and isolation. Can't see anyone. Can't talk. Can't have any human interaction. Sorry, mate, I've got plans. Can't make it. I'm busy.
I had plans, right?
I'm busy.
I had some plans that day. It was a Friday night.
Sorry, man, I got some things on, so we got to postpone the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm in isolation, but yeah, I've got some things on, so not going to happen. Sorry about that.
But the guy couldn't do it on Saturday night until after 9:30 p.m., so it had to be Sunday night after 8 p.m.
Yeah. No. Well, I've been very busy building out the studio, so I've been doing a lot of painting, lighting, set dressing. It's going to be purchasing of tables on TradeMe, all sorts.
Well, I look forward to seeing the new podcast studio. When I get back, will we be able to do one live from the studio?
Most likely. In fact, I was originally planning to try and do this one in here. In there, sorry, but we still haven't got a internet cable running to it yet.
Internet issue.
As long as that internet issue is resolved, which in theory it should be by that time, we can do it live from the podcast studio.
Wicked. All right. Well, shout out to Tyler Adams and Dottie Pie as well on the live stream. Thanks for tuning in, you dudes. Very much appreciate it.
Yeah. And Tyler makes a good point. He says it should have been a telephoto lens, not a wide angle lens. A 24mm lens is not really a wide angle lens. It's in the middle I think he shot it in the 24. I originally thought the 35. 35 is really can be used for both close-ups and wide angles. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, you'll have to watch it, Tyler, when it comes out soon, and give us your opinion, your expert opinion. And shout out to Daniela for that feedback as well. Hope you keep tuning in.
Thank you, Daniela.
And that's all I've got to say about that.
That's all I got to say about that. Okay, see you later.